Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at the Hudef Mage Pro Gen 2. Like the original Mage Pro, the Gen 2 is also a thermoform paddle, but the difference is in the dimensions and surface materials. The original is an elongated paddle that's 16.5 by 7.5 with a 5.3 inch handle, while the Gen 2 is a curved hybrid that is 16.1 in length with a width that starts at 7.8 but tapers down to 7.64. It also has a 5.3 inch handle and a 16mm core. Because the length is in between 16 and 16.5 inches, it's in the range where I classify it as a hybrid paddle, but it's just at the bottom, and I don't think I've actually seen a paddle with these dimensions before. The last difference is in the surface materials. The original Mage Pro used only carbon fiber in the surface, while the newer version uses a blend of Kevlar and carbon fiber, but we'll get more into that later. The Gen 2 comes in both 14 and 16mm, but let's start with the 16mm. For the swing weight, it's at 114, which is in line with most hybrid paddles, although it does lean towards the lower end, while the twist weight is on the higher end for a hybrid paddle at 6.90. These measurements make sense in comparison with other hybrid paddles because it's shorter than most lengthwise. Shorter paddles tend to have lower swing weights and are quicker to swing, while also having higher twist weights and feeling more forgiving. Now, obviously the shorter length does affect the reach, since the length right now at 16.1 is closer to the standard shape paddles, which are 16 inches in length, than the average hybrid paddles, which are closer to 16.3 in length. I personally found the paddle to play a bit closer to the wide bodies I hit next to it, specifically the J3K Pro. When I switched to using a hybrid like a DBD, that's where I noticed more of a difference in the lack of reach. Although the dimensions do fit the common definition of a hybrid paddle, I do think the Mage Pro Gen 2 plays more similar to the standard / wide body shape. As for the feel of the surface, this paddle is up there for stiffness. While paddles that utilize Kevlar in the surface generally tend to be a bit more plush feeling, there are a few outliers like the Thrive Azul and Spartus Apollo, which are stiffer than most carbon fiber Gen 2s. This is usually due to how the Kevlar is ultimately applied in the manufacturing process. The Mage Pro Gen 2 actually reminded me of the original more kinetic paddle in its feel. It's up there just underneath something like the Vatic Flash, which is completely different in feel compared to the original Mage Pro, which was a little below average for face stiffness. As for the power, the Mage Pro Gen 2 is around average, although it is less powerful than the elongated Mage Pro. Overall, the Gen 2 isn't necessarily an upgrade, but more of a side grade compared to the original Mage Pro. It's a bit hard to compare the two paddles because they're different in dimensions and overall they are just different paddles. While the spin is about the same for both paddles, the Mage Pro is going to give you a bit more power and overall reach. It's still relatively quick to swing for an elongated paddle, and its shape lets you be a bit whippy with your flicks. The Gen 2 is going to be more stable and forgiving from its higher twist weight and quicker in the hands from its lower swing weight. While you do get less power on drives, you're going to get more pop from the stiffer feel off the face, though this will come at the cost of a bit less control. Now, while you do see more attractive quantitative metrics for the swing weight and twist weight, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Gen 2 is the better paddle, because those numbers tend to favor paddles of a shorter length. Elongated paddles still have their advantages in overall reach and giving you more torque on drives, so the two paddle shapes are just different. One isn't necessarily better than the other. If you prefer elongated shaped paddles and enjoy the Mage Pro, I don't think there's a need to check out the Gen 2 unless you are curious about trying out a different paddle shape. Otherwise, I'd recommend the Gen 2 for people who are either fans of the original more kinetic paddle or people who want a solid hybrid paddle that plays closer to a wide body with a stiff feel. One more thing is that the Mage Pro Gen 2 also comes in a 14mm option, which is even quicker with a swing weight of 108 and a twist weight of 6.45. Like most thinner paddle variants, it's going to give you even more pop and maneuverability at the cost of a smaller sweet spot. Out of all the 14mm Gen 2s, this one is definitely up there for one of the poppiest. Both the Mage Pro Gen 2 options are also slightly more expensive than the Mage Pro at $169.99 versus $99.99. But Hudef has also given me a 30% off discount code, which drops the total price down to $119. One last thing for people who have made it to the end of the video is that we will be doing a giveaway for one lucky person to win a brand new Mage Pro Gen 2 paddle from Hudef. Just comment down below what your favorite Hudef paddle is right now, and we will select a winner 1 week from today.